it's time for Jeremy Clarkson to run for prime minister. He's like the only one who could do it because he's the only one that everybody would vote for. I look around and I'm saying to myself, who's going to come out of anywhere? I mean, it's not going to be obviously not going to be Galloway. They can't stop Clarkson. I've looked the British political landscape over, and I'm like, if Clarkson would have just like step up for the last 5 minutes of his life, like that's what I think he should do. He's the only one with the ability to do so.
Well, sometimes it's like, regardless of whether you want to do it or not, the world calls you.
Exactly. The world calls you. Trump has now ended all intelligence sharing with the UK over Ukraine. That's a big deal. That's literally tearing at the fabric of Five Eyes, NATO, and all the rest of it. If Five Eyes collapses here, NATO collapses, and then the whole thing collapses.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes a duty. So said Thomas Jefferson. Go to bit.ly/lawful tax protest or bit.ly/make war history and find out why it is a criminal offense to pay central government or local government taxes in the UK.
Hello, everybody. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Tom, and in this case, I get to play the part of Rich, and I'm just going to like take control of the microphone and filibuster for a second because apparently, Rich wants to be the talent today, and I get to be the host. So we're switching it up a little bit because, well, why the fuck not? It's Trump's New America and everything's inverted. And since it is opposite day every day on Emily's list with the Democrats,
stay ahead of the curve by signing up as one of Tom Luongo's Patreons and become a part of his investment community and get his investment letter.
It's that freaking big. I thought it would be interesting. So, therefore, with that said, Rich, how are you? It sounds like you're not having your best day, dude.
I am so fucking pissed off. I'm so pissed off. Oh, what have you done to me? Oh my God. Okay, so it's Wednesday the 5th of March, 21:07 UK time. I am so pissed off. So pissed off, right? So when I was 18, I joined the anti-apartheid movement because I was opposed to black people being treated like second-class citizens. And earlier on today, I saw a post on X that said that this Keir Starmer's government have changed the sentencing guidelines so that white people are more likely to get a custodial sentence for the same offense as someone who's black or brown or Muslim or some minority ethnic group. Fuck off.
It leaves you speechless. Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, it's insane.
We have to unite. That's what we have to do.
I agree.
We have to stand together because this is just divide and rule, and it's awful. I mean, everything this government does. Tom, I'm just gonna freebase. I don't know what it is, freebase or something. There's no
free ball.
Which is
it's actually you're going to engage in what George Carlin used to call free floating hostility. Now continue.
If this government is, if I go through some of the legislation that this government is putting through, it is awful, and everything gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Now, these sentencing guidelines don't have a lot of legal power because they're just guidance. And above that comes legislation, including the Human Rights Act, which says that you have to treat all people equally. And then above that is common law, which says that we're all equal in the eyes of the law. And above that, there's natural law, which is what the English Constitution is based on, that we're all equal under the eyes of God. So this is bullshit.
Well, we would hope that English common law still defers to natural law, but the way things are going, it clearly is not, because we now live in a rule by men or women, or harpies, depending on your perspective, and I'm not sure what to call Keir Starmer, the Sazi. I like that better. That's really good. That's good. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you at this point. It's quite sad, and now you have an inkling of the. I don't mean to usurp your anger or anything, but just to tell you how I feel your pain. This is what it was like living under Biden and living under even Obama, because Obama was setting these things in motion during his term, and to watch the deep divide that we have in our Congress at last night's State of the Union address. That was eye-opening, and it was eye-opening for a lot of Americans, thankfully. And all I can hope is that we see this. We see a similar. There's going to be a moment where Starmer's going to go way too far for even most of the London liberal elite, and that's going to be a very interesting moment.
Well, let me tell you some of the other legislation, right?
Sure.
And the government is out to destroy common law, and people
Mhm.
don't know about it. They stopped teaching lawyers and judges. They took it out of law school, the Britain's constitution, which is the 1688 Bill of Rights, the
Right.
1700 Acts of Settlement, the Coronation Act, the 1387, I think it was, law of judicial process. Now, those are all valid statutes that and laws that people just don't know about. They protect things like freedom of speech and our property rights, but people don't know about them. It's not known about the way the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Everybody in the US knows about that pretty much, right?
Right.
They're out to destroy it. One of the things they want to do is they want to get rid of the House of Lords and replace it with an elected body that would further undermine Britain's common law traditions. The Climate Change Act, or the Climate and Nature Bill, will allow the government to seize people's properties that they own and have them move into urban settings. The Assisted Dying Bill, initially it had some protections that the government would only murder you if a judge said it was okay to murder someone who the doctors thought only had 6 months to live. But now, in subsequent readings, they've got rid of those protections. It's now going to be some bloody social worker and some bloody psychologist, some sort of death panel that's going to decide. And they've made it easier that if somebody has anorexia, they can opt to be killed by the government. If somebody has a mental health disease or they think they're a financial burden, they can opt to be killed by the government. And then, of course, as you know, the government is sending more and more money to send to this disgusting, appalling waste of humanity in Ukraine. But actually, a lot of the money is coming back to line their pockets and the pockets of the lobbyists and the military industrial complex. And the government is supporting what's happening in Israel by providing intelligence services, intelligence information to the Zionist regime in their continuing war against Palestinians, be they Christian, be they Muslim, and providing intelligence for Israel's occupation of Syria and the assault on Lebanon, which is why bit.ly/make war history, so that we can stop paying our taxes. They've cancelled local elections for over 7 million people that were due in May, so that they don't get to vote on what's going to happen locally. What else are they doing that's appalling? It's just so much, so much.
Yeah, well, but this is the this is what was downstream of the divide and rule operation they ran on you last year by making Brexit the wedge issue, and then destroying the validity of the Tories by putting limp noodle Tories who were just as bad as Keir Starmer into power, and they did it on purpose to destroy the people's faith in them, and they give them no other option but to move to Labour. And then Keir Starmer, who wins the election with what, 33%, 8% of the vote, something like that,
Yeah,
less than 35,
massive majority in
but
Parliament.
with a massive seat majority because of the majoritarian system that you guys run, which is similar to ours. And there we go. And we could see it coming. And we've talked about it before. And elections have consequences, and now they're going to, and they have to. The thing about it is, Rich, and is that it's very clear, I think, that they really are feeling the acceleration of this timeline as things spiral out of control. And when things begin to really spiral out of their control, that's when they clamp down harder. That's when they just start lopping everything onto the table that they can in order to justify every stifling dissent. And that's how it has to be. And you had nominally had an opposition party. We all thought for years with Nigel Farage and Reform, but it turns out that they're just a bunch of City of London goons. And so now you have nothing. And so
we have George Galloway and the Workers'
we have
Party, David Curtin and the Heritage Party, but they're
Right.
sidelined. They don't get any.
Of course they are.
Difficult to get traction. So it's
Right.
just a little bit more online speech bill, which will make online speech even more illegal than it already is.
Right.
The data access bill, which will allow the government to pass on our health data and other data to different departments and agencies and to sell it abroad. Tom, if you were minded, you could buy my health data. Not that it would do you much good, right?
Right.
Then
But it's still awful. That's not supposed to be. I mean, I know enough about HIPAA regulations and medical records and whatnot because of because the people that I know and who work in that industry and have worked in that industry like directly, and 90% of the waste, of the bureaucracy that exists in the American healthcare industry is because of trying to trying to modernize systems, but still protect medical data, while at the same time still kind of allowing the government to get access to it. It's this crazy Kafkaesque nightmare that we've built for ourselves under Obamacare, and Medicaid and Medicare and everything else. And so, but it's crazy. And then they're just like, well, no. So you can look it up online. Like, oh, really? Like, so anybody can find out that I visited a doctor for X, Y, and Z. And of course, they need to do that because they want to have their programmable digital currency in order to be able to deny you access to government services that they can't afford to provide, or they don't want to provide for you because you have expressed wrongthing.
Yes, I have expressed wrongthing. I'm guilty of that, which brings us on to this finance.
You were guilty of that when we started. Forget the previous 7 years, dude. Just like your opening South Park moment, like, was good enough.
Oh my God!
My friend Rich turning into Cartman right in front of my eyes. Fuck.
It's your fault, Tom. You did that to me, right? But there is a I forget the name of the bill, banking and finance bill, which will I don't know if that's the right name of it, but which will allow banks to halt people's funds, which will allow the government to spy on people's bank accounts. We don't have the Fourth Amendment. I wish that we did, right? They can share.
We don't have the Fourth Amendment either, dude. Get over yourself. We have it in name only.
Oh, right, okay.
We don't even have that. The Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Eighth, and 10th Amendments were all gutted by the Patriot Act. Until that's repealed, they've been declared unconstitutional. So.
Right. Then there's all the stuff that they're doing to destroy farming. There's a proposal that we need to kill 27% of our livestock because of cow farts. 27%. Rewilding 10 to 20% of farmland, just letting it grow wild, and then giving up prime agricultural land for wind farms and solar farms.
It's time for Jeremy Clarkson to run for prime minister. He's like the only one who could do it because he's the only one that everybody would vote for under this circumstance. I look around and I'm saying to myself, who's going to come out of anywhere? I mean, it's obviously not going to be Galloway. They can't stop Clarkson. Like, I've looked at the British political landscape over, and I'm like, if Clarkson would have just like step up and be a man for the last 5 minutes of his life before he dies of a heart attack, or throws a clot, like, that's what I think he should do, because he's the only one with the ability to do so. And it would be this, and I know the big ape doesn't want to do it, but it's what he should do. We'll see.
Well, sometimes it's like, regardless of whether you want to do it or not, the world calls you.
Yeah, exactly. The world calls you. It was the argument that my friend Tim Kunstler made originally about Bobby Kennedy, right? Robert Kennedy Jr. Was that he felt like this was at his moment where he was being called to service and he was stepping up to the plate. And Jim made that argument very early on in Kennedy's when Kennedy stepped up to the plate to insert himself into the Democratic nomination. I think that's correct. I think that he properly sussed out the moment. And the Democrats obviously rejected him, did what they did, and then drove him into the arms of Donald Trump. At which point now he is now in a position to do the things that are then to serve. I think Trump's in the same position.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very clear that Trump has reached that moment a long time ago. I think when he ran for president the first time, I think it was more of not a lark, but it was a fulfillment of a long-standing thing that he was planning. He was planning on it, and he thought, hey, I'll rally the country around me, and we'll make America great. And why would anybody be? He was naive enough to believe, why would anybody be against that? And then he got in there and he found out just how bad it is. And
okay. Well,
so I don't know. It's going to be
a few more things, and then
Sure.
about what's happening in Britain that you may or may not know about. Viewers may or may not know about, and then I'm going to ask you about Trump in the UK. So then all the financial policies, which is they're deliberately making things more expensive for ordinary people, while at the same time raising taxes, destroying small businesses. I don't smoke cigars. I don't smoke weed. I don't smoke cigarettes. Right. And they want to ban smoking in the gardens of pubs, which I think is appalling because it's another attack on British culture, but it's also an attack on people freely associating and having non-surveilled conversations
Yes.
and not being atomatized. Atomized. They also want to regulate soccer, for crying out. And I think they're going to use that as a Trojan horse to destroy soccer because, of course, you have large crowds mixing freely, having a good
Mhm.
time. Can't be having that because Keir Starlin is a bloody Stalinist. Oh, where
Well,
did it?
remember, yes, you have to destroy everything, every institution that brings people together. So you destroy the church. I've been railing in geek culture. I've been railing about how they've been destroying Star Wars and the Marvel. Well, Marvel was always destroyed, but DC in particular, because DC's stories are so much more mythically aligned, mythologically valid, especially the Snyder, the movies around Zack Snyder's work and Christopher Nolan's work previous to that. Um, you have to destroy everything that people love. You have to raise prices so that kids can't talk to their parents about what things actually cost, so that because everybody has a disconnect in terms of value, right? This is one of the very insidious things about inflation, right? And so everything you're saying is part of the playbook.
Yep. And then
Okay.
finally, open fucking borders. Sorry, I didn't say that out loud. Open fucking borders. Open fucking borders, letting anybody in. Now, I'm an immigrant, by the way. I wasn't born here, but I came with my mum and my dad. My dad had a job, came with my brother and sister as well. He was vetted, he was interviewed, he was integrated into the society straight away. He had to be responsible to provide for his family and to keep his job. Couldn't be like a single male Muslim man hanging around street corners because there's nothing to do. There is a village in Essex and they have doubled the population by putting in a bunch of mostly Muslim men into this village. It's destroying culture, destroying the fabric of this society, setting us against each other. There's no increase in resources. These people don't have jobs to go to. And then as a social worker, I see the struggle working with the
Mhm.
poorest of the poor, that local Britons, native Britons are struggling with these new arrivals for same resources to have us fighting each other, Cloward Piven writ large.
And then making you the bad guy and the racist for
For
not
objecting.
integrated. I know, and the Obama used zip code targeting. He looked at the electoral map, he looked at the congressional map, and inserted the people into particular areas of the country, specific. You guys call them postal codes, we call them zip codes,
Hmm.
to move into and flood those zones in order to change the electoral map. That's how we got Ilhan Omar in Congress. That's how we got Rashida Tlaib. Okay, that's how they turned Minneapolis and St. Paul into Somalia of the North. Okay, it's how they did it, and they were trying to do it in Gainesville, Florida, and they've done it all over the country. They tried to do it here in my backyard. They were trying to do it in Gainesville, Florida. The county was violating its own land use rules to put in basically trailer farms and FEMA housing on the western part of Alachua County and the rural part of Alachua County, where we could not subdivide our land. Say we owned a 20-acre parcel, where we weren't allowed to subdivide it any more than into 4 or 5 acre tracts, and we had to cluster all the houses around the center of 4 acres. This is their plan, but the government can come in and stick 4,000 people on that 20 acres.
Yeah.
And you could own a 20-acre parcel of land, 20 acres, and not be allowed to put a second kitchen on that property because that's a separate dwelling. Okay. And the county would fight you tooth and claw about this. If they found out about it in any way, they would come in and tear the thing out and then fine you on a daily basis until you tore it out. And yet these people were doing this. They bought the Alachua County Fairgrounds and sold it to FEMA for like $1. We no longer have the Alachua County Fair. We no longer have one of the best. We had the best medieval fair in the country, in the state every year. Usually on the weekend of my birthday, or it would go for 2 or 3 weekends because massive fairgrounds. There was jousting and the falconry and all was beautiful. And now it's this sad little pathetic thing just outside of downtown on like a 3-acre parcel. And it's pathetic, and they did it on purpose. Why? Because the DNC told them to.
Yeah, to destroy culture,
and that's who they are. And because what they were trying to do was they were trying to pad the numbers in Alachua County in order to win close statewide elections for governor and senator. They knew they couldn't win the Florida House or the Florida State House or the congressional districts, but they knew that they could do that. That's why they didn't rebuild Puerto Rico many times after all the hurricanes, and they just moved them all to Orlando. Okay, like this has been done. They've been zip code targeting in the United States for close to 2 decades now, and so now they're doing it to y'all in England and in Great Britain, and what else,
Okay.
I'm in no way, manner, shape, or form shocked. So
Yeah.
it's always been part of the plan.
Well, let me ask you this, right? In terms
Sure.
of what I think is Trump's war against the globalists,
Mm-hmm.
the draining of the gold from the city of London
Mm-hmm.
into the US, the depriving the British imperialists of not supporting them with their war against Russia.
Right.
And how do you see that playing out in terms of between Trump's USA and the UK?
Well, it's escalated again this morning because Trump has. There was an article in the Guardian yesterday, which was then picked up by the WAPO, the Washington Post, that Trump has now ended all intelligence sharing with the UK over Ukraine. That's a big deal. That's literally tearing at the fabric of Five Eyes, NATO, and all the rest of it. He's serious.
Now, just tell me, what sort of information would the US have been providing for the battle?
Remember, if they don't have satellite, they don't get satellite information about troop movements. They don't get targeting information. They don't get anything. Any information that we have on the ground about what's going on. They don't share any of it anymore. It's a big deal. Like the Ukrainian army doesn't work without U.S. intelligence. Okay, they don't have air cover. They don't have access. They can have access to our satellite networks. That's how they've been able to fight Russia the way they have. Okay, like we're not talking about World War II style dumb artillery anymore. These are all GPS guided. So much of the weaponry is GPS guided and whatnot. This is very, very important. Like eyes in the sky, like the whole idea that that like tank warfare doesn't work anymore is because the whole world we can relicense space from space. We know exactly where the troops are. The United States cuts off like satellite access to the Ukrainian army. This war's over in 60 days. Russia breaks through one of the last. They've finally reached like the last layer of the Ukrainian defense lines in the Donbass. After that, there's nothing between them and Kiev except the Dnieper River. That's it. And some Ukrainians who will be blind fighting with the equivalent of blunderbusses against tanks.
And there's no replacement. None of the European nations or the UK.
No, there are 2 satellite networks in the world of this type. The Russians, well, the Chinese probably have one as well. The Russians and the Americans. And everybody replied, when you talk about relying on the Americans, we're not talking about the 155 millimeter shells. We're not just talking about the tanks. We're not just talking about the F-16s or this or that. None of that shit works without access to American GPS.
Wow. Okay.
And if that's part of this ban, this war is over. And the whole intelligence sharing thing and the whole idea that our State Department and our CIA can do an end run around Trump by moving information into MI6 or Australia and then having it come back against them and then show up at the State Department or some NGO or whatever and have plausible deniability. That's how they quote unquote entrap Trump in the first place. The CIA gave the information to MI6. The MI6 then used it. And the CIA wasn't involved. Then we got that information from MI6, and MI6 does the same thing with the CIA. Like that's why this system has to fall apart. If Five Eyes collapses here, NATO collapses, and then the whole thing collapses. And this tells me that we're that much closer to a false flag operation in order to try and shame Trump into ending the war in Ukraine. But I'll tell you, the response here in the United States to State of the Union address last night and to the way the Democrats acted like petulant children, I don't even think that would work at this point. Because I think enough Americans would look at this and go, yeah, no, this is clearly yet another one of these operations to get us to do something that we clearly do not want to do. And I'll be honest with you as well. I was just chatting with Mel K about this, and she asked me that on the same basic thing on the way out the door. I said, I'll be honest with you, even if something like that did happen, I don't think you could shame Trump into supporting Europe on this anyway. because I think he knows exactly what they're trying to do, because he has been the victim 18 ways from Sunday for the last 7 years of these types of false flag operations and nonsense manufacturing consent operations. I don't think he cares. He's 79 years old. This is his last term in office, and he doesn't care.
And
But they'll try and do something to spoil the midterms for him. But we're way too far away from the midterms, so that's why. Now that I think about it, that's why he's forcing them into this move way too early in the game. Because say this was April or March of 2026, and we were heading into the midterms, like they did with COVID when they released COVID on us in March of 2020, the presidential election year. Had COVID hit in 2019, Trump would have won in 2020.
Yeah. Okay. So then, what would happen to the UK, and how will UK and Europe react to this? Because they're gonna lose.
They won't have any other option but to say, "Oh, I guess we're like this is for all the marbles, Rich. This is the end of the 250-year operation to deny the revolution that we fought so hard for in 1776 through 1781. Like Trump's going for the win. He's making the big push for the win.
He's out
and
the remnants of the British Empire,
and the colonial and colonial powers of Europe. Yes, and so I don't think he should accept the invitation to meet with the king, because I don't think that was an invitation to meet with the king. I think that was an invitation to an assassination. Get him off American soil, assassinate him, and blame it on the Russians.
Yeah, because the Russians are really going to want to kill the guy who wants to stop.
Who wants to negotiate peace? Well, these are the same people that that killed a bunch of people that's with sarin gas and Ghouta when Assad was winning. Like, this is nothing new. These people are terrible at this shit. I mean, look, dude, as bad as like some of the James Bond movies have been over the years, even those plots were more believable than some of the shit that they've tried to make us swallow over the last 8 to 10 years. It's insane. It's truly insane.
And has Trump announced whether he's going to go or not, and when?
He has not announced it.
Okay. I mean, he seems really.
I think he'll more likely go to Moscow for Victory in Europe Day.
He'll be
as his first state visit.
Yeah, he'll be safer there.
And
in the UK,
he would be safer there, and by snubbing the king and going to see Putin and Xi first. There you go. Those are optics for you.
Yeah, well, he's
by May 9th. By May 9th, I think he'll have the ability to do that. Right now, he's focusing on making Canada into the 51st state.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're not going to get into that. I wanted to keep this video short, right? And
sure.
Clearly, Trump is Putin's puppet.
Oh yeah,
I'm being ironic, by the way. Anybody who wants peace. Yeah, but no, this is for the viewers. You and I are clear. He's doing what he should be doing for America and for people. You know, one of the things that just strikes me about Trump in all his speeches, how much he talks about how awful it is that people are dying. I don't hear another leader talking that way.
I know. Well, Putin has.
Okay.
You know, Putin has, because he's, and it was his justification, whether you believe that was a just justification or not. I happen to think it was. And that was his justification for moving into Ukraine in the first place, which was to protect the people of the Donbass.
Yeah.
To the Russians, this was a protection mission. This was a peacekeeping mission against crazed lunatics in Ukrainian army uniforms. I've been gaslit into believing that they're different people than Russians. No, this is just this is a bar fight between, this is a bar fight between Slavic brothers. And everybody who can see it for what it is appalled by it, except for the people who fomented it.
Yeah, yeah. In this vain hope that somehow they're gonna defeat the Russian bear. Okay, Tom, let's keep this short, because you and I were talking again on Saturday at 4 p.m. UK time on the Coin Republic X space. We're going to be talking about crypto then. All right.
Oh my. Okay.
So we have
my third or fourth space of the week, so that'd be fun. Okay, can do so. All right, Russian.
All right, Tom, absolutely great. I'm going to get this out probably on Thursday, the 6th of March. Fabulous. bit.ly/makewarhistory if you're in the UK and you want to protest what this government is doing. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes a duty. So said Thomas Jefferson. Go to bit.ly/lawful tax protest or bit.ly/make war history and find out why it is a criminal offence to pay central government or local government taxes in the UK.